whatever milestones that Black people make against hate, it ends up benefiting all the other people of color. I can't see what his endgame is. The Republican Party is the party of racism, is the party of white supremacy, is the party of hate. This is wrong, and it needs to stop.
Everybody wants to go back and drag that piece of history up, but they don't want to go back and deal with what their ancestors did to the indigenous people and to Black people in this country. You got to go. And you got billionaires talking about going to space and Jeff Bezos. Go! Never come back. I hope you get lost. This man has lost his mind.
Boom! Come on, girlfriend. What is up, everybody? It's Dr. Vibe here, host and producer of the award-winning Dr. Vibe Show, the home of Epic Conversations, and I'm the host of Epic Conversations, 2020 Best Podcast News Award winner, 2018 Innovation Award winner given out by the Canadian Ethnic Media Association, and I host the only online conversation in the world for dads and fathers that is co-sponsored by Dove Men Care and Dad Central, Canada's national fatherhood organization. Excuse me. And as part of that collaboration last year, I was part of a team that reached out to over 100,000 fathers around the world. So as always, I like to say you're blessed, highly favored, a magnet for miracles, and a solution for someone's problem. We're broadcasting live March 5th, and most Saturday evenings live. We bring, there's that old song, I Got the Power. We got the power from north of the 49th and south of the 49th. We have, as always, State of Things with Aisha and Jill, and we also have a special guest. We'll bring on her on in a moment, but we're going to bring up to the stream Jill and Aisha. How we doing, ladies?
Hey, hi.
What's going
on?
Everybody? How's everybody? Is everyone okay? Everyone holding up all right?
Fair to Midland.
Yeah.
we have a Midland, Ontario, by the way, up here in Canada. So I hope, and I think, isn't there a Midland, California?
Probably.
Yeah,
we probably have a Midland somewhere.
Fair
to Midland.
Good.
Isn't that like an old Irish saying?
English
Irish.
I have no idea. How was everyone's week?
It was long. It was a long one.
Yeah. What made it long?
Nah, just catching up on work and stuff like that.
Okay. I want to say everyone who's watching live, appreciate it. Hello, Jen Meyer says, hello, everyone. Hello, Jen. Hello, Blue Rains. Thanks for being early and ready to rock and roll. We're going to have we only have Epic Conversations on Saturday nights. You know that. So that's why you are here. And we also have from my kind of country, Canada, well, somewhat kind of country, Christy White. How you doing, Christy? She's back. Hey, Christy, what's going on?
I'm good. How about all you guys? How's everyone doing?
Doing all right.
Pretty okay, considering.
And Christy had technical help. So, her son, before we got all started, her son came on and made sure she was all connected and all that. So she's all ready to go. Hey, hello, Tamara Macaulay from Texas.
Hey.
Actually, interesting. One of the few shows I watch on TV on a regular basis is Top Chef. And the most recent season that's just broadcasting live is they filmed it in Houston. And also Jill visited Texas and came out alive.
I did. Well, as long as I was being fed, I was kept it. Things could have changed rapidly without good food.
What was the best meal you had in Texas?
We went to some amazing restaurants in Austin. It was like New York level, Michelin star. Like, wow. For real, I started thinking, wow, they have some great restaurants. And it could have been, but the best one for me was a taco place that did something with a taco that was ridiculous. So even from like the super, super expensive to the, really cost nothing street food, it was brilliant, amazing. The food was delicious.
Nice.
And this taco, I still think about it. It had shrimp, and it had sort of like a adobo, some kind of like red, something very like a paprika, smoked paprika with it. And it was delicious, and like a chipotle. I don't know what they did to it, but when I go back to visit,
you're going to go back to Texas?
If I must. But I would actually say that I'll try to get the name of that place again. It's in the hotel, the Line Hotel. Yeah, it's in their hotel. They have a little restaurant, and that joint is banging. That taco place was off the hook, off the chain.
All right.
Yeah.
Aisha or Christy, have you ever been to Texas?
Nope. I was through there when I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
It's a big state.
Yeah.
Well, the crazy thing is I've been out to a lot of places because we're Indigenous powwow family. So we've traveled the powwow trail. So I've been actually all over.
So hold on. So Christy, do you have that documented?
Yeah.
Wow. I'd be fascinated
about
that.
I'll send you guys some stuff especially on my TikTok right now, which I don't know if you can see, but actually we were talking about River earlier. My son is an Indigenous hoop dancer. So he's got LED glow hoops right now. So
I didn't know such thing existed.
It's beautiful. You should look up hoop dancing. I'm a jingle dress dancer and also a women's traditional dancer. But my whole family
TikTok out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow,
it's a beautiful. That's the thing. There's so much about Indigenous people and just our culture that just is so beautiful. A lot of people just don't know about.
So nice. Very nice.
That is amazing.
But at any time, if you just like Google River and then Christy like the cookie -white, you'll see videos come up of him hoop dancing because he actually advocates for Indigenous children with disabilities.
Oh my goodness.
Wow.
Amazing. Sounds like I need to interview him.
Yeah. Actually, I was going to say, Dr. Vibe, you need him on your show.
Yeah. That is that is quite interesting. All right.
Yeah,
well,
it does sound interesting.
Now to the topic.
All right, let's get to it. So I know everyone thinks we're going to talk about something first, but we're going to catch you a little bit off guard on what we're going to talk about first here. So our first conversation topic, someone named Jill Jones being banned from Twitter. What up with that?
Yeah, they didn't quite ban me as much as they suspended me, but it was for like freaking 7 days. So it was really a shocker because I guess it happened shortly after I got off with you guys last week. I hopped online and it was right at the beginning of Putin's war, and the ambassador was in those meetings with the United Nations, and he was saying that it wasn't true that they were going into Kyiv. And, and I happened to say, I called him a fat beast that should be rolled up and put into a suitcase and dropped into the middle of Kyiv. And then let's ask him if it's not real that Russia's in the middle of approaching the city to destroy them. Because I felt like he was gaslighting. And then the moderators, was up for a bit. And then the moderators, I went to log back in and they were like, sorry, you can't get on for about 7 days because this goes against our community standards. And I'm like, I would think that at this point, having community standards for Russian politicians would be the least of their concerns, but they were allowing and permitting all sorts of bots to go around and report everybody who said anything about Putin, anything. I mean, if you had put up, I had some pretty offensive things up about him. And fortunately, those stood on Instagram, but I did take a couple down because there was just my hunches were like, okay, these people are out and about, lurking around. I'll bring them back, you know, when it seems like they've died down. But I know that they're cut off from Facebook and Twitter because their Führer cut them off. So they're not really online anymore. He cut them off. So now they can't talk to us or even rally and like try to get us thrown off. So that was it.
So I feel like I always told people I know at least one celebrity. Now I know a real celebrity. Now you're real like hanging out with Prince plus banned from Twitter. Man,
yeah, you got to earn your stripes, right, to get thrown off. You know, it's disturbing that whoever their moderators are, and I know it's a really tough job for them because, God, I've heard horror things that they have to see, but I don't know. They just have to do better. This is not, you know, he is a beast. And he is, they were gaslighting. And actually, to be honest, I don't think they should have been allowed online anyway, lying and gaslighting people. That to me is something that needs to be taken down. As soon as you see any politician, gaslighting should be removed, especially when you show people in another split frame walking into Russia. I mean, into Ukraine. You know, we live in a really weird time. Not to throw this off topic, but, you know, like my husband was talking about the mind-bending warp thing that's happened in America, where we were hearing about a popular singer who had stolen somebody else's song and it came out and there's a lawsuit. And people who are fans of this singer, Dua Lipa, are like, that's not true. That's a false lawsuit. And I'm like, listen, the songs are being played side by side and it's, you know, pretty identical. And we've gotten into this, and then you turn on something else and you'll see people, musicologists from Rolling Stone says that this is not, the reason it's not a copy, a direct copy, is because the B minor went to an A flat at the, you know, and here's the problem that we have. Because of the situations with Tinder swindler, the Anna Delvey situation, the case, all of these people who lie and have been con people, and we have January 6th where they're telling you that's not an insurrection, that's a party, you know, people having fun. This type of thinking has actually, like a worm, gotten into the psyche of American people, and they do it now on everything. There's some that's just common sense. Common sense. You can hear it. It's like what they did during the George Floyd court and the Dante Wright. When we don't stand up as people, and I may like these singers or these talents, but we do them no service or justice by defending bad behavior or things that are wrong. You can still like them, but two things, as Aisha said, this whole week has been my saying, two things can exist at the same time. You can still like them, but they should be admonished for something that they've done that's bad. And that goes across the board on everything. We've gotten to a place where we don't believe that two things can exist simultaneously. And I believe she was speaking about, for that topic, which we'll get into, was about the Nigerians and the Black people stuck in Ukraine. But they can. And we may hate the game, but we still, as humanity, can't hate the player. You know, like we can't let our humanity go down and start going, well, they left those Black people stuck over there, so we're not going to feel sorry for the Ukrainians. It's like, you know, so I know I went on a broad sweep there, but that was my motto all week because, you know, I had nothing to say to people except that.
So, Jill, when do you get out of Twitter jail?
Tomorrow, I think. Yeah.
Oh,
I gotta say, I deleted it from my phone, and I don't feel so bad not having it. All they did was made me cancel my subscription because I was like, y'all not gonna cancel me for 7 days and have me paying for this blue. Bye. Click. I cut that off immediately. So that was the other thing, because I had a blue subscription, so I didn't have to look at ads and all that kind of stuff. But the minute they played that game and wanted to keep me and keep some of my money, even if it's daily prorated or whatever. I was like, bye, you haven't sorted this out yet, because that's not, you need to protect me from trolls, because this was not against your community guidelines. I refuse to pay for this anymore. So I won't. So they lost a customer.
Yeah, and this keeps on coming up periodically in our conversation. We need to do, if and when the world settles down, or the U.S. settles, we need to have a whole conversation about social media, not only from the users' end, but the companies' end. We need to have this conversation on who gets banned, who doesn't get banned, etc., etc. That's a whole other conversation. Well, now everyone else wants us to talk about, as we got the infamous one up first. Let's talk about what's going on in Ukraine. What is Putin's endgame? Who wants to start about what they've seen this week about what's going on in the Ukraine and Putin's endgame?
I think the encouraging part about all of this is that he looks like a sloppy dictator. You know, there's you have to keep asking the question, what is his endgame? Because he keeps changing course every time. And the U.S. intelligence has been very good in terms of saying, okay, this is what he's planning on doing. And then it's out there and he has to change course. And he's really desperate at this point. It's obvious that he's very desperate at this point, and that he's trying. This didn't go the way that he thought it was going to go. He thought he was going to be able to go in, that the Ukraine people, the military was weak, that the people didn't have the kind of resolve that they have demonstrated that they have, and that they wouldn't stay and fight. Like today, what was it? They took down a jet or something, a Russian
helicopter.
Yeah, helicopter. I don't think that they anticipated that. And also, too, let's talk about that caravan or convoy, whatever they want to call it, that he has. They should have been where they're supposed to go by now, but they're running out of supplies. They're running out of gas. Simple things that you would think that they would have been prepared for. And also, too, the reports about the military themselves, the people in the Russian military, not getting the whole truth of why they're in Ukraine in the first place, because they're being told that, oh, you're going to go there, they'll welcome you with open arms to liberate them, what have you. And they're getting there and they're finding that this isn't the story, and that they weren't even supposed to be attacking. They thought they were just doing military exercises, and here they are in war. So it's chaotic, but at the same time, you really see that this man is on this warped path, this downward spiral, and that he's spinning out of control.
Christy?
I don't know. Like, it's been crazy. It's very interesting for me because my mom is actually a retired Canadian Forces member. So sitting in and hearing some of the stuff she's talking about and her viewpoint on some of the stuff is rather interesting. I will point out, Aisha, the one thing I am skeptical about with these soldiers is that Russia has a very well-trained army. And I find it difficult to fully believe that they got there and they realized what was going on and they're just continue to keep going. Like, that is questioning, right? Like, you don't get there. And I mean, there's enough of them on the ground there that, I mean, if they revolted against Putin, like, what would that say, right? Of his own army. So, I mean, in some ways, I sure on day one, if I got there and realized, whoa, I was supposed to be welcome with open arms and this is going on. I'm a little confused because a lot of, the video we've seen and stuff, these soldiers aren't acting like they're doing something that they're being forced to do.
Yeah. By now, at this point, yeah.
At this point, I'm saying it may have been different in the beginning, but at this point, I'm sorry, we have to look at some of this is a soldier's choice. Just like it's the other soldiers, or even that just everyday people picking up arms and fighting those soldiers. Right. They know what they're doing.
Yeah. I think they know by now because he got rid of Facebook and Twitter. I think they must have seen it.
Mm-hmm. I will say, though, one thing I have found just incredible as a bunch of women sitting here is that I think one thing that they didn't expect is because in all other world wars, right, women didn't pick up arms, women didn't do that kind of thing. And I mean, my mom has been following like the mayor's wife. She has her own tactical team together. They're tutoring like how to even start vehicles such as tanks if you come across them. They're networking like women do, but in this very, very different way now. In helping, and that's what they said. Like a lot of these women said, like I've seen grandmas, like really, really old grandmas picking up arms. And when you talk to them, it's because they lived through that old war. They didn't get the chance. And now they'd rather go out, pretty much feeling like they're protecting everything they believe in. Which is true. I mean, that's the point they're at, right? So I will say I think we have a different view than any other war because we do have things like TikTok and, you know, all the other things that we haven't had before. So it gives us different perspectives. But I will say on a humanity front, it's really interesting because I don't exactly buy the whole thing that they're doing this against their own accord. Some of them maybe, but on a mass front, I don't think I believe that.
I think the younger ones that are in the army, that are in the Russian military, probably don't. They realize what they're doing, but I don't think that they realize the real world consequences when given the fact that like 18, 19, 20 years old, all they've known really is Putin and any other kind of way of life. I don't think that they can comprehend or understand it.
I think they're given 1 year of mandatory you have to do.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I'm
Joe.
kind of with Christy. I think that, you know, it was kind of at the beginning, I would have thought that there were many. I also think that it was also a matter of survival for a few who came in to be really clever. And because of social media, we're hearing these stories grind down really fast, as opposed to like during the resistance with the French resistance and World War II, we heard these stories long after, or, you know, they were picked up in newspapers. But the interesting thing for me is having a war and also having social media going at the same time. Like, did Google have any kind of intervention in there as far as like messing up coordinates or getting rid of GPS and making sure that wasn't exacting? Because I do know that they said in many of the towns in Kyiv and many of the towns that the women actually went out and turned signs around, moved signs, got rid of stuff, put them in odd places to mess up the army. So I would hope that, you know, did Google disable access to GPS? And if so, you know, was that part of the reason why some of the coordinates that when they were bombing places, they ended up bombing hospitals or residential? I mean, there's just a lot of things now that we have to really take into account because we have something very new happening, technology with the satellites and all the GPS. So I don't know. It's just I wish we could find somebody in the army or something who would to tell us how wars are being conducted going forward. Like Syria, same thing must have happened.
That's what's so interesting about this too, is that he's not fighting a war in the technological society that we live in. It's like he's like fighting like a 1991 style war. And that's the part that for me, I kind of do wonder what they do tell their military, because we have to consider that, you know, they control TV, they control their TV, they control what they hear on the radio. And, you know, there are Americans that have contributed to a lot of the false information that they're getting because of the echo chamber that we have here, the pro-Putin echo chamber that we have in this country that they're playing on loops nonstop for their people. And so the perception, if you were to sit, it's one of the reasons why I can't sit and watch Fox. If you were to sit and watch Fox for like 3 hours, you would think this was a totally different country, the United States, than what it actually is. So the perception that people are getting on the ground there versus what the reality is, it boggles the mind, because it's like, how is this man not planning properly? It doesn't none of it makes sense. None of it makes sense. It just doesn't seem like, it's like he's way off his game. And, you know, I heard someone on the TV the other day, I think it was a Ukrainian ambassador. He was like, you know what? If Putin wants to die, he needs to just go in a bunker and do what the other guy did in 1945 in Berlin.
He doesn't have the guts to do it. He thinks he's too special.
Yeah, he does.
You know, but you're right. We put on Fox, actually. My husband put it on because he goes, I want to hear what they're saying. He, in about even like an hour after listening, he was in shock, mortified that we have a country full of stupid people that actually listen to that and not even question its integrity. It is not even remotely geared to people with the intelligence of a 7-year-old. Even the conversation, the way that their verbiage, the way that they even explain scenarios, it's really dumbed down. Now we're talking about, this is pretty brutal. You know, it's really bad. We're no better. Yeah. I mean, these people would let Putin come right in, and, you know, and many have in their hearts, because the reality is, when you vote this year, I don't care if it's like, you know, Bubby Johnson from down the street who used to bump, you know, the 1970s hit song, whatever, and he's running for Congress and he's blue, vote for him. If you never heard, vote blue, because the reality is, we cannot let them get one edge wise. Look at what they did. Look at what they did. The only reason the jig isn't completely up is because Putin basically had been dragging Trump's for the last year since the insurrection. And he just finally went, you know what? I had enough of this. I'm going to do what I was promised I was going to do. And that I said in Helsinki when we were there, this was the deal. I had a deal, and I am not putting up with this BS anymore. And he checked out, and he got rid of his useful idiot and his useful idiot Trump's problems, and went and said, war's on. And that's it. And went into a bunker and said, now, here we go. This is who I am, and I work better alone. Yeah.
I want to cycle back to the actual conflict here, because don't you think, though, if Putin wanted to take out Ukraine, he could just say, do it. So I don't know if part of me says, okay, yeah, they've done miscalculation, but if they really wanted to do it, they could wipe them out in a few hours.
But the point is not to take over the Ukraine, though. That's not even his
it's
whole
us,
purpose.
NATO, holding us at bay.
His purpose is to engage the NATO countries in World War III.
And to keep us like dogs sitting at the fence watching. Yeah. We're watching a slaughter.
So now all of a sudden it's, oh, well, if you close the airspace, then I'm taking that as a declaration of war. When what was it last week? He had something else he was taking as a declaration of war. So he keeps moving the goalpost the closer it gets to that brink, because he knows once that starts, he's got no allies of his own. Because remember, all the other countries that supposedly support him are not in that mainland Eurasia space of the world. You're talking about, you got Venezuela over here. China's further down, but China's not even sure they want to jump in because they've got their sights set on Africa, right? And so, and then there's Hungary. Hungary's like, well, we're sandwiched in Europe across all. Hungary is in that what is that? If you can't beat them, join them. So we'll start letting refugees come in now. So he doesn't even have that. He's like on an island alone, really. So if this pops off,
but Aisha, I think he's at the point. I don't think he cares.
Yeah, I don't think he cares either.
No,
he don't care.
No,
he don't care. He doesn't care.
It's like he was just given the news that he had AIDS or something. Like he was just told, like, you got 2 months to live. You know, it's like you just feel like, what happened? He clearly has nothing to live for.
No,
he doesn't care. He hasn't shown any remorse, at all.
And even with AIDS, they have medication. I mean, it's like that's not it. That's not a death sentence either. It's like they basically said you have glastoma. Like it really is like, yo, what the hell? You know.
Interesting. So let me just catch up. We got some comments here.
Before you get to the comments, though, is that again, he's gotten close by bombing the nuclear plant,
power plant. Yeah.
The thing of it is that I think he might not care what the rest of the world is doing. He cares about his legacy, and the point being is that if there are no people,
convinced.
There's going to be no one here to talk about it.
Exactly.
So why does he care? Why would anybody care about a legacy that's not going to be here?
I just think that I think
I
he doesn't
legend
care.
Will Smith, did he give it in the movie? No.
You know, I just don't think he cares. The time for caring with him has been long gone for years. So
but
I think
there is something very suspicious. The fact that he doesn't care. There is one comment there that says, don't get fooled by China. And they might have a point, because the game is to look like you don't care. Well, if you don't care, then why is this, then they're waiting on something to swoop in, because they could very basically take over the world. So there is something that he's waiting for, and it could very well be China. So we shouldn't be fooled by China either. I wouldn't rest comfortably thinking because China played, with their the other day, which is very un-China-like. But to be like, I don't know, go back to the table and negotiate.
That was very, very un-China-like.
Yes, two men who made themselves leaders until they die. That doesn't really sound kosher.
But remember what I said when we first started talking about this, the possibility of a conflict like a month ago. Honestly, if he really was in the not caring part of it, he would attack from the west, not the he would attack from the east, not the west.
Well, to me,
because if the whole point is to really goad the U.S. into war and to engage the NATO allies, it's more expedient for him to attack Alaska.
Yeah, but it wouldn't have served China. It wouldn't have served China, which is why this game on this side of the ocean serves China more. You've got the airspace there. You even have Sweden. You have their issues with NATO. All of that is just real fuzzy at the moment. It's very fuzzy. But yeah, definitely.
Cinema Canela goes, also important to notice Ukraine is a new democracy. If not mistaken, their independence from Russia happened in 1991.
Yeah. Their independence from Russia happened, I want to say it happened even before 1991. I think 91 is when they set up the government.
Well, Christina has a question here. What are you guys' thoughts on Ukraine, Black and brown people not being helped to leave at all?
This is, like Joe said, what I said, it both can be true at the same time. We can deplore what Russia is doing to Ukraine. At the same token, we can also look at Ukraine and say, wait a second, now's not the time to have racist policies, especially when your people are trying to leave the country and go elsewhere into other lands. It's like, no, now's not the time to do that. I think the video that that's been out with this, it's disturbing, and the stories to hear about it are disturbing. And you can deplore what Russia's doing and praise the Ukrainian people, and you can be upset with the people who are the gatekeepers, who are not letting people out because they're Black and brown.
But it happened here with Katrina.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, why are we tripping? It happened in our own country. The saddest part and the reality is, you know, it should cause people to think about what actually happened during World War II as well. We had many Americans who got caught up, unfortunately, in Hitler's not crazy, horrible scheme. Musicians who were there, and Black people pretty much just got scooped up quickly and taken away. You know, when you're told to leave, you are a person of color. It has not been resolved across the world. The world does not like people of color for the most part. In a crisis, it's crabs in a barrel, every man for himself. Yeah. And you got to be aware of that. And at this point, I get it, but about the racism, but we had it here. We've had it through every crazy moment in our own country. It was to be expected. It was during 9/11.
Yeah,
people probably crying to get everybody out. It's just the same.
I'm disappointed, but I'm not surprised because they're going to take care of their own first.
Totally.
Yeah, and anti-Blackness is not just a United States manufactured.
It's global.
Right. It's global, right?
And also another thing people don't really understand is that a few of those countries, because they're not NATO, the ones that are not NATO, first of all, it wasn't just Black people who weren't allowed to leave the country. At the very beginning, the BBC captured, there were a lot of men, particularly from all over, even Americans, who couldn't leave because they were trying to figure out, are they Ukrainian? Do they have dual citizenship? If they had dual citizenship, they needed to stay because Zelensky has said 18 to 60-year-olds needed to stay, which is why I'm still very perplexed how that dude Maxime, who's on Dancing with the Stars, even got out of the country, because technically he shouldn't have. He should not have been gotten out, and whoever smuggled him out, that's the only way he got out. He is well old enough to have been forced to stay like everybody else. But I guess he said, I'm a celebrity, get me out of here. The other thing that happened is that there were things about trying to figure out. One man from England went, and they told him his passport was fake. They were from America, actually. They told him his passport was fake. These people had gone to collect a baby that they got from a surrogate, their child, and they were both at the border. They let the wife go, and about 15 hours later, the husband was allowed to go because they had to check with the embassies and however they're doing. Now, with Africans coming into Europe, even coming in immigration-wise in America, first of all, African people tend to have longer monitoring on their green cards. So if they marry somebody in this country, whereas somebody could marry, like a lot of people come here, marry somebody to get a green card, and they can stay married for 2 or 3 years and it be done, and they go off and they're fine. Russian people, a lot of people, come here, do that. They don't get checked for that. African people, however, can't just do that. They tend to have to, if they got divorced after like being married for 3 years here, forget about it. They would deport them. They would deport them and not give them the benefit that they give other people who have a green card that's for a longer length of stay. That first initial stamp is really critical. And normally they make people who are African who come here have to renew every 5 years, whereas sometimes people who are white can renew every 10. It's just the way it has been and is. Now, when you go to Europe, if you try to have an African visa and it was given to you to go to Ukraine, you are entitled to some of the EU, but not all of it. Your visa only entitles you to be where I guess the NATO countries would be. Now, hopping over to Sweden or whoever is not, that was another problem at those borders, because we don't really know who wasn't letting who in or out. And that's the big question. Who, maybe maybe they couldn't let them in. Maybe Sweden was like, hell no, you're not coming in here.
Let's just catch up on a few things. Jen is saying, Jill, I read that story. The couple have barely made it out with their new baby. And also saying Maxim definitely got out on a train to pull him because of his celebrity.
Absolutely. And he really, you know.
But to me, though, you know, getting back on the Ukrainians, I think it's only just a matter of time where either my hats off to the Ukrainian people being so defiant, even to those who are coming back into the country to fight, like incredible fortitude, bravery, but this one don't look good. And like I said, like what I thought when I heard about the nuclear plant, I said, it's over. That's when it was just over. Because if you hit that nuclear plant, those people are for lack of a word, they're sitting ducks.
But again, it goes back to what I said about him being sloppy. You know what I'm saying? How did he miss that? How did he not?
But Aisha, maybe he didn't miss it. Maybe it was deliberate.
But that's what I'm saying, is that I don't.
I mean, he's holding them hostage at Chernobyl.
So, but basically, Russia is holding the whole country hostage.
They are.
Yeah.
That's and basically those who are getting out while they can. He's holding, because again, and this is just a war of attrition, because the people are holding out before, but the supply chain of food, supply chain of healthcare, so it's just like an anaconda snake, just slowly just squeezing. And you know, and again, I tip my hat off. The only way that's going to get broken is the West has to get involved. Like, I mean, directly. And then that's when all things are going to fly. And I think that's what Putin is betting on, saying they ain't going to come in.
Well, no. And you're seeing that with the fact that the U.S. can't get supplies directly to the people that need them. And the reason is because the moment that they do, first of all, how do they get them in? The moment that they step foot on that border, forget it. All hell will break loose.
Yeah.
And so I think
even more death, even more. That's when
more
the Ukrainian people are going to be even more.
That's going to be a declaration of war. Putin's going to take that as a declaration of war. And so the challenge then becomes, how do you get supplies and whatever to them?
So here's another thing, and a Black Beauty is saying, and I brought up another thing. Okay, I just don't understand. And the president of Ukraine should keep up. Why should the president of Ukraine keep fighting a losing battle, especially when the NATO alliance isn't providing equal weapons to Ukraine?
Well, because here's the thing. We've known that this was going to be a problem for a very long time. You know, we've known since the Reagan era, since the Thatcher years, that you can't keep letting the economy determine the type of democracy you have, because the problem is that it became a big sellout. There's just, you know, you've got oligarchs right now that are probably running around wanting to figure out how to get rid of Putin, because, I mean, talk about a stifling, having somebody under your thumb. We have all but gotten rid of the middle class worldwide, globally, and we now have somebody holding hostage. If Hitler had have done something like that, we would have just been watching him massacre millions and millions and millions and millions after another, based upon holding a country hostage with nuclear threats. I mean, this is one of your worst nightmare scenarios. And at this point, someone like a Donald Trump, thank God, isn't in office, because it was going to go down. The only difference with that is that Trump would have just handed the keys to the kingdom, because this is another way to erode. We're just here, and seems like a losing battle. And at some point, we're going to have to figure out how to extrapolate these people, which we can't do because he won't even stick to, you know, allowing a pause. We have people who are renting Airbnbs. People are still in their homes, and we're paying for Airbnbs for people that will never go there, just to make sure these people have some money. to live because they couldn't get out. They have somebody elderly. There's people in these residential communities being bombed to death. He is a killer. He is killing children. There are people, there's no more oxygen in hospitals.
Yeah.
He is killing them slowly.
He wants,
and we haven't even heard half of the stories.
Yeah.
Well, and even a surrender, I don't know. You've got a man who's traveling with crematoriums. What does that mean?
I'm glad you brought up Trump, because the other thing too that we have to talk about, and we have to be very real about it in America, is that one of the reasons that Ukraine does not have the weaponry that they needed was because we had an American president try to blackmail the president of Ukraine for votes, to win an election, to steal an election that he claims was stolen from him. So remember, what was it, $250 million worth of weaponry that the United States was supposed to give to Ukraine because of this impending problem that they knew was coming. And the United States president at the time said, not unless you dig up dirt on Joe Biden, and on tape saying that, released the transcript of himself saying that. And then guess what? When it all came out and he got impeached, guess what he did not do? Did not get them the weapons still. And so now here we are, we have to wait for this Congress to go and approve a $10 billion appropriation for weapons to send to Ukraine via Poland. Okay. And that's what we're waiting for now. They're supposed to do it tomorrow.
So comment here, Lacrosse is saying Xi, who is the head of the Chinese government, is playing it low because he wants to become dictator for lifetime this year. Therefore, he has to make sure that China's economy is doing well and not bringing the economy down. Also, we have a comment here, Black Beauty, saying, as well as actually Black woman, as a Black woman, I am not cool with Black foreign students being rejected from acceptance into other nations.
I mean, that's the way it's always been, you know, and unfortunately it's...
If you're a Black person, where are you accepted in the world outside Africa and by the mass population?
And even then you can't always go home.
Exactly. And even then they deport you too. I mean, the ruling is like, you need, when they say go home, go home. Yeah. Because we have serious situations going on. And even Joe Biden had said, we will not, he said to every American, the embassies, we will not be able to get you. Yeah. End story.
Loud
and clear. Very clear.
Very clear. Christy, you have been quiet for a few moments. Anything you want to add before we transition to our next conversation topic?
Well, I mean, it's interesting, as you know, in Canada, Canadians are going about it a little differently. I'm sure you've seen it in the news. We have a lot of people hopping private, commercial flights, right, over to pick up arms to help get supplies in. I read a story today in the newspaper. We have a very high skill trained sniper who's retired, who is actually going to go and do the front line of getting supplies into those people. Canada, as I said, it's interesting. I'm just really listening because we have a very different kind of stance, I think. And then in the Indigenous wise, we're just, oh my goodness, we're just watching what's going on, because I mean, we feel, especially for the students and stuff like that, we get it. We live in a country where we're the original people and they'd probably not have let us in. So, I mean, we very much feel that this, like, especially for those kind of situations, how grueling and awful face to face it probably really is. I mean, hearing about it is grotesque as it is, but I couldn't even imagine on the spirit what that is, standing there and dealing with it. I mean, we deal with a lot here.
But remember, we can't broadcast what Americans are doing because we have stupid idiots like Marco Rubio, as you told me earlier. You want to tell everybody? I didn't know about this today.
Exactly. That's why I was like, listening and learning.
Okay, Aisha's got something to say about this. Go ahead, Aisha.
He wasn't supposed to show the video of the private meeting that they have with Zelensky. What does he do? Screenshot. Post it on Twitter. You idiot. That right there is just, look, that helps Val Demings so much right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Good God Almighty.
Because it's like,
he's like, we got a bunch of mercenaries going in at 9 o'clock.
And he wasn't the only one. There were like 2 other members of Congress who did the exact same thing. I think though that with the way that we're watching this unfold from the United States standpoint is that absolutely we don't want to get involved in another war. Yeah. Because we're barely out of the ones that we had been in for so long. But I think also too,
Biden doesn't want another war. They're
he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
And I honestly think that
because they want him to lose for the election,
right? And I honestly think that the smartest thing that Ukraine did do this week was to apply for to become part of the EU, and because that there also helps them militarily because it might be too late, but guess what? For the United States, it's a very good thing because it puts one more step between us and having to engage where they would actually have to look to the EU first for any assistance before they can expect United States assistance.
All right, so before we close it down on this conversation, Black Beauty, regardless, it seems to me that the Ukrainian president is just being used by the West as a puppet to jump off to the World War III. She also says eventually, evidently, it seems like Ukraine is going to be blamed for escalating this mess and NATO getting involved. And what does the Ukraine get out of this? No more country.
Well, the other country you got to keep an eye on too, with regard to this, is Belarus. They're no friend. They're no friend of Ukraine.
No.
And while we have our eyes set on looking at what Russia is doing in Ukraine, can't take our eye off of how they go in through Belarus.
Okay. So here's an interesting. Go ahead.
I will say on the Canadian side of like politics in the way of like Trudeau's stance, I don't understand this. Don't go, but if you do go, we'll try and help you in any which way. It's very different than Biden's stance of don't go, we ain't helping you.
Right.
Well, Trudeau's actually going over to Europe all next week. Physically, he's going to different countries, and I'm saying, are you crazy?
Well, because everybody wants to be a peacemaker. Look at Macron.
But no.
He seems to think that he's going to strike pay dirt with.
No, you don't want him going. No. Vibe.
No, but the reason why, look, maybe call me crazy. You probably are thinking what I'm thinking.
Okay, this way. I got to point this way. I'm with him completely.
No, because he's a target.
Look, Biden and Harris are not trying to be anywhere up near there. They will send the Secretary of State first.
No, but I'm just saying he's
a
target.
That's what I'm saying.
He's a target. They will. Now, someone is saying here, where's the UN? UN is so irrelevant because the president of one of the main UN council is a Russian, so he can go veto anything.
That's why they all walked out the other day.
Yeah, exactly. The UN is irrelevant in regards to this. It's irrelevant.
It's a dinosaur. It doesn't exist.
It's symbolism. It's irrelevant.
The UN is only as effective as the countries that are a part of it and that are in the leadership. And when Russia is up there,
Russia
in the leadership part of it, it's not effective.
It's irrelevant.
And please don't ask Indigenous people what they think of the UN stance.
There you go. UN has a lot of apologizes, a lot of backtracking it's got to do. So as we end off here, what do we see in the next week? A week from today, surrender?
No, I don't think Ukraine is not going to surrender. They're going to have to kill every last person in that country for it to be over. The Ukrainians are not going to just roll over and play dead. That's obvious. I mean, these are people taken to the streets with baseball bats. Okay,
Dr. Vaughn, did you see Standing Rock?
Yep.
They ain't giving up. anything that they believe their whole
And
being belongs to.
Yeah, they're going to stay. The only wild card here is what Putin does, and I guess that depends on what side of the bed he wakes up on in the morning.
And it depends on how these sanctions just keep hitting him and unraveling.
Let's talk about this. So how effective can these sanctions be?
Very.
Right now, they're targeting his oligarchs. So they are, and a lot of them are almost penniless at this point.
Yeah.
So they're ready.
But he don't care. He gonna wipe them. He don't care.
But he always was of mind and body that he was the reason they were oligarchs in the first place.
Right.
He does care because if his economy goes, the problem is then it becomes like Russia back in the day where you have Shostakovich and all those people. And that means revolt, revolution. That you want to talk about a stealthy crew that will snap out of it for real, and that could possibly happen. You can't give people a taste of what they've been having and then all of a sudden yank them back into freaking 1954.
Yeah, and then
let's put it this way: their tennis players can't compete. None of their athletes are able to compete in anything international at the moment.
Grand Prix canceled.
The Metropolitan Opera got rid of the diva. She's done. She can't sing. They cut her because she's a Putin lover too. I mean, it's really not working out, and their accounts are being confiscated at banks. It doesn't mean that it just means that a lot of other countries just got richer.
Yeah, and this is
with
why
their assets.
And this is why I say this man, he might not care about the people. He might not care about how he goes about doing things, but he does care.
They will be behind
the legacy that he leaves behind. And that's why I'm just like, yeah, if he wanted, honestly, if he really wanted to start a nuclear war, he's got the button, push it. Yeah. The thing is that for him, this is all about the legacy he leaves behind for Russia. And he wants the kind of Russia that was there when he was in the Kremlin. Right. And he has been working really hard to get that. If there's no one here to tell the story, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for him. He wants to go down as the most feared, the most revered, and the most authoritarian leader that Russia has had in 2 centuries.
And you can't forget that era. There's still people who are like elderly that are, of the Biden age group and people older than even Putin who are still alive that remember Russia during that time, the land where nobody smiled. If you look at pictures, nobody smiled. And, there are people now freaking out that they could be sent back there and deported. I mean, just because of the way the state of that country is. That doesn't sound like a bunch of people that are eager to, back to the days where we scrutinize everyone who's Russian living in a democracy. That was hell for people.
That's going to happen. It's already happening now.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't even be a freaking doctor here or a scientist without being scrutinized and, called a commie and all this crazy stuff. Yeah. And a lot of times you weren't even allowed to be here.
It's true.
And you had one blemish on your thing. If you ever had a dinner with Vladimir Putin, you would not be allowed to be here because you would be considered potential to be a traitor to this nation.
If the former president was back in, you'd be allowed to do that.
But the former president is not going to get back in.
Yeah. But here's the other thing too.
The fact that Putin moved on without him, he says a lot more. I mean, this is way over all of their heads.
That's my thing. Is this about a legacy for Russia or a legacy for him? And if
they're trying to maybe help Putin, Trump maybe get back in, but it ain't going to happen.
No, it won't happen. And also, the Russian people are that's the other linchpin too that I don't think he anticipated was the level of protests that they're starting to see in their streets was something that I don't think that he anticipated.
Well, he can't maneuver. Like he's put a blemish on everybody who may have been helping him in some indirect fashion, whether they had a job here, whether they worked in Canada doing something at a bank. He has put everybody under a microscope, and most countries should be zipping those zippers up right now and getting battened down the hatches and getting rid of those people in these key positions, because it's not that they're not doing their jobs. It's just you can't really trust them.
Yeah.
All right.
You got Visa and MasterCard pulling out
across the world. Yeah. And Prada and Gucci, honey. Yeah. That might just destroy the whole damn place, because you know those women love their Prada and Louis Vuitton and
All right. Let's move on to our next conversation piece. The President of the United States gave his first State of the Union speech as an American president, Mr. Biden. Thoughts on the speech?
You know, it was funny to watch, because I did not watch the Republican response. I just saw the woman talking, and I just turned the channel, right? But it's one of those things where Republicans were in a very precarious position, right? Because on one hand, they couldn't not clap and not, and not stand up and be like, oh yeah, we're not for democracy, right? No, but on the other hand, they did it begrudgingly. Okay, you could see the resentment and the contempt in their faces when they had to clap. The one thing that they were unified on was that comment he made about the Trump taxes. That was the one thing that they just
true.
We're not clapping at all.
Right.
No.
Right.
And of course you had Neanderthal 3 names shouting out stuff during the during it. But it really was a test of what this country's legislators are about, right? Because Biden's remarks were released a couple of hours before the actual speech, some selected quotes. So you knew what he was going to go. The thing I think that for me was interesting was really watching the reaction. And then from what I heard, the Republican response was the antithesis of how they reacted with the cameras on, right? So I think, I mean, for this to be his first State of the Union as president, it went like State of the Unions go, right? The state of our economy is strong. It's the typical thing that they say, but he did in that hour and 12 minutes or so that he spoke, did touch on some very important things that I wish that we could have gotten a little bit more expansion on. So, for example, he talked about pass the Voting Rights Act and all of that. Well, where's the road to 50? I mean, to say we should do these things, let's cut the cost of prescription drugs, particularly insulin. Where's the road to 50?
Wait, we did have some movement on that recently. Somebody actually
have some movement because they threw it in another bill.
Yes, we have had it where people now you can get this insulin for $30.
Yeah, they threw it in the infrastructure bill. But notice they had to throw it in with something else. So I wonder what the plan is. He told us what needs to be done. I want to know, what's the road to 50? What is your plan to get the 50 votes that you need behind you to pass some of this stuff? That's the one thing I didn't come away with.
What was everyone's reaction about him saying funding the police?
I mean, it's not like it's a secret. I mean, it's not like when defund the police came out 2 years ago that he was up there all of a sudden saying, yes,
that's true. It was consistent,
and then changed his standpoint.
Yeah,
he said what he's consistently said for 2 years. True. The nuances were the things that you had to pick up on, was the training and the enabling of special services like mental health, things like that, were were the key takeaways from that particular point, because he didn't say anything about funding the police that he hasn't said before. There was no shocker there.
Right. It's true.
So on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate President Biden's first State of the Union?
It was after 4 years of State of the Union, where you had this whale of a man who
it felt like a bloodletting before. Every time he was doing something,
talking about how great he was. Instead of having to watch Rush Limbaugh get a presidential medal, instead of having to watch how he's responsible for record low Black unemployment that was consistently going down anyway. You didn't get it was a big difference. Like it was like a return to normal. Like, oh, he said what a president is supposed to say versus feeding his own ego. We had the Trump show for 4 years, which was like a spin-off of The Apprentice.
It's still in some ways it's still going on.
In some ways it's still, but remember that those last 2 years, remember during COVID, he was having one of those things every day at 4:30.
It's true.
He was bringing the press together so he could just blow up his ego. And so this time it was different because we didn't see a president with an overbloated ego saying, oh, well, I did this and I did that. If anything, he needed to press more about the things that they did do and they did accomplish and really highlight that, because that's going to be the key to winning the midterms.
I did see old Howdy Doody Merrick Garland. Somebody got the puppet to sit up and sit there. He was alert. They took him off of life support.
Wait, the next day he did do a little presser. I mean, I
don't know. They must have, I don't know where. Right? It's like, yo,
could you imagine if they gave him Viagra? Oh my god!
Oh my god! I mean, for real, like he's really like he's a real downer. Like he's like, hello.
He looks so depressed all the time.
Depressed. He looks deflated. He looks like somebody slowly just like pressing the air out of him. Like just
get him a cup of coffee, get him some caffeine, something.
So when I see him, I give him some yerba mate. I've been drinking it lately and it's a hell of a job. I just can't deal with him. I am just so not on board with him. I don't trust him. And that's a big problem for me because I believe we are in this position because of him too, because of him being so damn slow. He's not taking care of business. He played it wrong. He seems to think that the strategy is about accumulating enough gumballs and putting them all together and then showing up with them. And this is not that strategy. I always question people who use the similar strategies that they used when they tried another case, or that's what they're used to. That's not a thinking person's way, and a forward-thinking person on how to stay tip-top, He really has missed the mark. Had he been pulling the Jenga thing out and shit falling, no, really, you got
He's playing the tortoise and the hare game.
Totally.
Thinking that the tortoise, slow and steady wins the pace. But
no, it doesn't.
Slow and steady, we don't have time for slow and steady.
No, by the time you get to slow and steady, it's like, oh, we're not even playing that game anymore.
Next thing you know, Merrick Garland's going to drop dead with all these open cases, right?
And all of these gumballs.
Merrick Garland died from boredom today.
Exactly. And it's really bad because he's missed the mark. And that was the one maneuverability about Trump, that he is 3-card Molly, and this one isn't even.
He's what?
Isn't it 3-card Monty or 3-card Molly?
No, I thought, I just wanted to make sure.
Trump is that game on Times Square. He is the little, where's the ball? That's Trump. When you go and people get their money fucking stolen from them all the time, that's Trump. Now, Merrick Garland is playing freaking solitaire. It's not, I was like, dude, please, we gotta get this together. This is not working. And so my whole point is like, snap out of it. I feel like being Cher in what was it, Moonstruck?
Moonstruck, yeah.
God.
No, you look. Imagine him and Mitch. I wanted them to show a split screen.
No.
Him and Mitch McConnell, the tortoise and the turtle.
Totally.
Side by side.
Because sometimes you have to get chi energy moving, as long as it's just moving energy. You know, we needed things to be exposed along the way. Certain things. It's not always so methodical in this situation because there's so many layers to this. And there's a lot of different baking times. Different things will bake at different temperatures with this entire case and analyzing of Trump's years.
He had an open door, though. Here's the thing. Bill Barr on Tuesday announces this book and all this stuff in the big lie. Where's Merrick Garland on Wednesday?
Right. Yeah.
Sitting watching Joe Biden.
Exactly. And Bill Barr has written, what is this, like Bill Barr's third book?
For those who are watching this live, Mr. Barr is being interviewed by Lester Holt tomorrow night.
He also has a book coming out where he
and a book too. Yes.
Trump lied.
This movie. This. Yeah, and this is Here We Go. It's like he's given people so much time. It's like and said, get on your horses. You go on. I'll catch up with you guys later. He gave him like a head start.
Yeah, he's like, let's see who can write out the statute of limitations first.
Right.
I'll just wait here.
I still don't trust him. I don't care what anybody says. I don't.
And I guess some other developments before we get to our next conversation piece. One of the high up people in the Oath Keepers is on trial this week, and his son is testifying against him.
How old is his son?
But his son actually had recordings of him and his dad talking about this, and one of the recordings basically says, "Yeah, I'm taking it done to go to take care of things up in the Capitol." So.
I mean, what if that bomb had gone off that they planted that we don't know who planted that looked like Lauren Boebert or Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? The two bombs. I just keep sitting around and going, wow, we really who wrote those Jason Bourne scripts? We need to go smack them around too and go, no, really, we never had it like that.
So
we never had intelligence like that, I guess.
So let's move on to our next conversation piece. But I will just say here, interesting, there's a war going on in Ukraine, but I think from where I sit, there's civil war going on in America.
Oh, yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
We know that.
Yeah,
we're not prepared and we know it.
Yeah. All right. Aisha wanted to talk about this one.
This is my Brittney Griner, NBA player too.
Yes, Brittney Griner being detained in Russia. Aisha, give us the lowdown on this.
Well, actually, as a side, my daughter and I noticed about a week ago. We're like, BG has not posted anything on Instagram, and her Instagram posts are usually really interesting to follow. So today they announced that she, the last time she posted was February 5th, and they announced that around that time she was detained in Russia. They're saying it's because of a vape cartridge. Strangely enough, this is her eighth season playing for the UMMC in Russia. If you're not aware, a lot of women who play in the WNBA go overseas to Russia and China to play because they make 10 times what they make here. The average WNBA salary is about $100,000 a year. It's an interesting choice. I have to say, the WNBA announced about a week or two ago that they had moved all of their players out of Russia. But today, Russia actually is the one who announced that they have detained Brittney Griner.
But she's been arrested on drug charges, right?
Allegedly.
Allegedly, yeah. But
that's the wrong place to be.
But this is the other part. This is the other side of it too. Is that you wonder, because she's been back and forth for 8 seasons.
I look,
and I was watching Twitter, and like people were like, what is she doing over there in the first place? She's been there since October.
But when did this go down before?
To me, this is just me still. You ain't catching me in any of those countries in any part of my life.
You've got to pick like where you want your money. This is the problem. That no offense to her, but it's not always about money. It can't be. You got to really have some integrity. Why would you go to a country that's been plotting to take stuff from your country? Why would you work there? You have to have some integrity to go, no, thank you.
I would not, as crazy as I can be, I would not live in a country that's run by Vladimir Putin.
Well, we have celebrities that want to go and perform for, Saudi people. And now, it's like, why would you do that?
I will say that she does make one of the higher salaries in the WNBA at 100 some odd change. Most women are making between 47,000 and 50,000.
Christy, you had a question.
Okay, so I just briefly kind of caught up on this story earlier. So Aisha's brought some information that I didn't realize. So I have a question for you. She's been there since October?
Yeah.
And this is illegal to obtain there?
This is what?
Illegal for her to obtain there? These vape cartridges?
To have them, yeah. That's what they're saying. They arrested her on drug trafficking.
Okay.
They charged.
My thing is if it's true now, but if it is true, then she's using a point of privilege, because if you've been there since October, you knew it was illegal.
Right. But this is what I'm saying.
And
this is her 8th season there. That's why I'm saying. That's why it does sound it's suspicious on one hand, because it is her 8th season there. It's not like she has. It's not like this is the first time she went and had it with her.
So I agree with you. It sounds suspicious, but I also think it could be that she may have gotten away with it before and just might have assumed that she was going to get away with it.
Right.
And I hope not, because that's I feel so bad that she's stuck over there as it is.
Well, the biggest fear that people have for her personal safety is that she is not just a Black woman, but she's an out gay woman, and in a country that
all the more reason. Why would you be in Russia?
Why would you break the law? Well, hang on. Sorry. Even not just being in Russia. Why would you? If because again, we can't believe everything.
No.
Well, here's the other
part. If it is the truth and she did obtain this, then she should have known she was putting herself at huge risk.
Oh my God.
Here's the other thing to talk about this is that how come our government had no clue until Russia released it today? She's been in custody for 3 weeks.
I don't know if they didn't hear about it.
I hear you a bit on that, Aisha, about that, but still, I would not be living in that country.
I agree. If I were a gay person, I would not be living in Russia, and I didn't have to. No, thank you. That's like going and living in Iran, and going, oh, okay, I'm going to go work there.
And I understand. I guess you have to make questions, money, and whatever her principles are. But even I just wouldn't live
in this climate.
Not even before this climate. Again, the person who rules that country.
In this economy, no, thank you. Right, exactly. They're very he's anti-gay.
You're playing with fire. You're playing with fire, right?
And it's only a matter of time before somebody rats you out, uses you. I mean, really? And you're a public person?
And
I hope she gets off the charges.
There was 25. Here's the other part too that we have to talk about. There were 27, I think, WNBA players playing there, period. How do you lose track of one?
And again, and I feel for her, but I would say to those 20, if I had the opportunity to speak with each, to them in a mass, I would ask them this question: do you know who rules this country that you're playing in? Yes. Do you trust the person who rules this country?
They're saying that the vape cartridges contained hashish oil in her luggage at the airport near
They said
Moscow.
hashish or CBD. They're not.
No, hash. Well,
ladies, regardless,
hash is used normally.
Hang on, whether it's CBD or THC, the whole thing is it's still illegal. And in
I
her
can't take
position,
CBD down to Texas. I can't.
I mean, especially if this is, I mean, she's not new there. She
or
should
to
know
London. I can't take my CBD creams to London. You're right. I can't take
the thing. If people come to the US or Canada, we expect them to follow the laws.
Right.
In accordance to them, right? So the same thing is, I'd want to know, like, if this is factual and this was found on her, then why did she think she would
Blue
be
Rain
okay?
Blue Rain brings up a very interesting point.
Yeah.
Do we know why we're hearing about this now?
That ends up being the question is why are we hearing about this now when this happened at the beginning of February?
Yeah.
Okay. Why do you think?
Why do I think?
Yep.
I think it's Putin trying to get his Switzerland moment, like what they did with ASAP Rocky.
I think Putin said, U.S. don't play with me.
Yeah.
He's using her as a pawn.
Oh, absolutely. And here's the other part too. We have to remember is that a lot of the information that we're getting on her detention and her arrest and all of that is coming from Russia. We're getting Russia's information. We don't have any of our independent information.
Blue Rains, I do agree. I think she's being used upon. Conveniently, this has come out now, and it's a warning from Putin saying, "Don't mess with me. I can do this with any American."
But all the more reason we banned them from playing too. Medvedev
That's right. So this
is
the tit for tat.
So it's a tit for tat. But the reality, we didn't send anybody up where they're going to go to the gulag. But the reality is, this happened. I guess the February, the date that he kept saying, do not travel, whatever. She should have been new. This was February 27th. She should have been on a plane, I don't know what she was thinking. I don't understand.
She was detained February 5th.
But the president of the United States, look again, I come back to my question: who is the ruler of that country? Yeah. How does he treat people?
Is she the only American over there in this position? She's like sports-wise
that we know of.
Sports-wise,
I don't mean.
That's the other interesting fact too. Is that about 2 weeks ago, the WNBA said that they had gotten their players out of Russia. That's the other nuanced part of this. Is like, how did they get all of them out? But there's this one that's left, and they never mentioned it.
Because she must have stayed.
Well, and I'm wondering why they would
she's actually still detained. They've had her in jail in Russia for 3 weeks.
If I am not a Russian living in Russia right now, I am getting the first plane out of that country.
I know.
I don't care what my position is, because I think that Mr. Putin, look what he's doing. Like, anyone who disagrees with him, look what he does. Whether it's internally in his own country, how he suppresses people in his own country.
Absolutely.
Right? If he would do that, if he does that to Russians, what is he going to do with non-Russians?
Look what he did to Navalny. No freaking way. I would have just quit basketball.
And look, I sympathize for Ms. Griner and all that, but and all these players. But okay, you got to make your money. But what's more valuable, your life or your money?
Well, and my other thing is, too, can I point out, is on her side, something she might want to look at is, I understand that they pay more for some of these sports players, but what is she modeling into the way of other young women coming up in her position about going to a country under that kind of scrutiny, just to play a sport, to get money?
Yeah.
And
my opinion. I mean,
and I get why they're going there. I get it.
Oh yeah, and that's me. But I think there should be more lobbying about them being able to stay in a country where they would be safe and well protected and
it's not been on our safe list for a long time. Russia,
and that's what I mean.
It doesn't even extradite, to us. So why would we at that place again?
Well, one of the things though too is that we have to deal with in this country, at least when it comes to W, is the pay gap. Because remember, the WNBA is owned by the NBA.
Yep.
And they pay their male players to the point that they don't even have to consider having a side gig.
Yeah.
And I think that if it doesn't open up anything else, that I sincerely think that the W will probably change its pay scale.
But we have basketball players who go and play on European teams
too.
The big question is, how can you go and play for Russia? And
in Russia.
But it just shouldn't even be included in the grouping. It's not safe.
But again, it's an individual
because we have people who are older. She's 31. There's people who are older that want to play and make more money and have longer parts of their career, or they didn't make it in the NBA and they're over there. But are they stuck over in Russia too? No. There was a big disconnect.
Yeah. Well,
but the league is going to have to answer to the fact that they said they got everybody out.
Yeah,
I
agree with that.
Okay, I agree with that. I agree with that. But the bigger question is, why did you go to that country when the regime is there? Yes, I understand.
A drug charge is that's akin to being in freaking Bangkok, and we have never been successful at getting anybody out of Thailand and in Turkey or any of those places. We have never had a track record of ever getting people that have been Americans accused of drug trafficking in these countries. Ever. Yeah. Sad to say.
So I think it's a chess movement from Putin. Of course. But like I said, I don't know if Russia's done it yet. But I'm sure we may hear in the next day or two, would say, you can't leave my country.
I don't expect this to be over at least for 4 to 6 months. At least.
No, I will not be surprised that he will say, if you're a foreigner, you're not, and if you are from a country that has economic sanctions against Russia, you can't leave the country.
Yeah, why wouldn't he? Why not? He's not. This is the thing. We're expecting, it's like everybody who's upset because Black people can't leave. There are no rules in war. And you're going to somebody who's a warmonger, who you're expecting him to follow the rules.
In a communist society where
wake up. That's not going to happen. No way. He basically said, I'll give you a half an hour to get your and get out. And that's that. And boom, I changed my mind after 15 minutes. That's not someone who's negotiating. That's not even someone who's diplomatic or on an estate level of government or policy. They don't care. They're nah. And you stole drugs. You brought drugs. That's it. Bye. That's where he is. And this is very, very worrisome. It's very, very worrisome.
And again, the charges could be propped up charges. We don't know if this is the truth.
I mean, Khomeini took hostages. The truth that we got from Iran Russia. Took hostages.
Remember what you said. This is the truth we got from Russia.
This is
how credible is that?
And that's and we have no people on the ground who've been able to investigate or verify it in every news report. They're reporting what Russia has put out.
Well, like I said, I hope somebody's spoken with her.
Yeah. Okay. The Blue Rain is saying, right, Dr. Vi, I guess saying, this is what Russia is saying. Right?
Yeah. And it's horrible.
So if people think there's fake news in North America, don't even start with Russia. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, look, it's just retribution. It's payback for everything we're doing.
The American media needs to ask more questions. It's funny how our media will they'll talk up a fake dictator, give them benefit after benefit after benefit of the doubt But when they get information, they're getting information from Russia. They're putting it out and not verifying.
Why? I actually think they all need to be a little bit quiet at the moment, to be honest with you. Loose lips sink ships, and we don't know what's true.
No, but if we're gonna report it, we need to not get our information from.
Well, it just doesn't look good with her being there. Yeah. It doesn't. There's not much you can say about it other than, and the questions would be for us: why are you still there? And having State Department people get involved. We had you remember Oliver North and dealing with the Iranians who had people who were hostages. This is, falling in those categories. And you're right, Dr. Vibe. If people don't get out or figure out, hell, I don't think they should take a plane out. I think they should go over the mountains and try to get the hell out the best way they know how.
Any way you can get
Drive,
out,
whatever.
You get out.
Yes.
Look,
leave.
Get out. Get out.
And don't wait to be told. Okay?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have even waited to be told.
Like
that to me is just.
I don't think I'm a smart person, but you're not catching me in Russia. For the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Right? Look,
I know.
I'm even hesitant to go to the United States. Why am I going to Russia?
Right.
I'm sorry if I offended some Americans, but no. I'm not saying I don't say I'm in the paradise, but no.
She said NBA players go everywhere to play. They may, but they need to really double think that right now.
It's good that they go everywhere to play, but investigate where you're going.
And we're not in a peace. This is not peacetime. This is wartime. So it's very different.
Right?
Wartime is different.
I know some of them go play in China and all that. Just be careful. Use some better judgment. I wouldn't even go to China. I wouldn't either. But let's move on to our final conversation piece. I thought that'd be a short conversation, but that got nice and deep. Final conversation piece. Chrissy can update us on this. More unfortunate news. More Indigenous graves are being found in Canada.
Yeah, so the news this week is we have another residential school that we had, they had surveyed, so we got the data back. They haven't even gotten all the data back as it is, and our numbers for unmarked graves right now is over 10,000. The crazy thing is in Canada, the TRC, which is the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, when they first put this out, they said that they would probably only have about 3,000 Indigenous children unaccounted for.
Wow.
So where are they? They're finding. They're just digging up the sites where these schools were.
So what's happened is here in Canada and in the US. In the US, they were called Indian orphan schools, and here in Canada, they're called residential schools.
Residential schools,
yeah. And what it was is that Indigenous children were actually by law taken to these schools run by the church and government. A lot of them were brutally abused, but there was a lot of children who were told that, ran away, or where other children through the years have stated, no, they died there. They knew where they were buried. They've been trying to bring this to the government on both sides. But again, when you have two countries that have shaken hands on a policy to completely annihilate one whole demographic of people. So what happened is when this Truth and Reconciliation happened here in Canada, one of our female chiefs out west got really, really smart, and they were allocating money to survivors to do what survivors wanted. And in her community, they wanted the truth. So she applied to the Canadian government for this grant funding to do something with their survivors. And what they did is brought in a survey, the whole machine and everything. And they surveyed where the survivors said that they felt there was dead children buried. And that was our first one that was uncovered. And there was, the data at the time was 217 graves there. That was only one school out of 43 across Canada. That wasn't even US. And now they've been going essentially school to school to school. And I mean, even at the school that they just uncovered this week, that's only a very small radius of the school ground that they're still having to survey, go through data. I know at the residential school, we have 2 close to my community. There's one called Mount Elgin, and I'm in London, so like just outside of London, Ontario. And then there's another one that us as Indigenous people call the Mush Hole, and that's in Brantford. And it's actually a museum. You can go on their website, and it's Mount Elgin. And they've started surveying there, and they said they're now receiving the data and they're starting to go through it. So we're just kind of waiting to see what the numbers are. But technically, I think all in all, we've only done like 5-6 schools, and not even all of that, and we're already over 10,000 numbers.
Jeez.
So is this sort of like how, I guess, the Uyghurs, they would also put these people here to make them assimilate at some of these schools and things like that?
So what happened is the government level, especially, they enacted, well, first with Canada, it started with the Crown. It started with actually the British Crown. And that's when they enacted the Indian Act here in Canada. Because a lot of people don't realize that Canada is actually a 3-lot system. Not just a 2. You think of Canadians and immigrants, that's not here. It's Canadians, immigrants, and Indigenous have all different laws because of the Indian Act. And same with the US. Then you got, after residential school, you got 60 Scoop. That was the whole thing where they were taking, and there's up until, like, I'm sure Vibe knows, we had a case about 8 months ago that was all over Canadian news of them taking an Indigenous child from a mother in a hospital. They assumed she had been drinking and was drunk, and took the baby right away to realize she had a speech impediment, but was perfectly fine. Because here in Canada, under the 60 Scoop, that under the Indian Act, they could just take your child. It didn't matter. And then also to explain for residential school system, to give you an idea, as I sit here, my mother is a residential school survivor. The last residential school in our area that closed was in 1996. My first child was born in 1996.
What amendments have been made to the Indian Act? Have they made
very little? Wow. No, because what's going on is we have such seeded systemic racism in Canada for Indigenous people that it goes like so beyond. You would not even believe how, especially Indigenous women, are treated in Canada. As women yourselves, if you look up the MMIW, which is a big thing in Canada, the murdering and missing Indigenous women, the numbers are astronomical. We're bought, sold, trade, doesn't matter, left in ditches, beaten up by police. And then again, that all stems down from a lot of Indigenous people are just starting to kind of get their voice and stuff, because you have to think, if I'm only, like in my family, first generation that didn't go to residential school, the stories of what happened to those kids in that school, because they were beating the Indian out of them, so they thought they were making them less savage.
How are they going to notify the family members? Or is it going to be based upon DNA evidence for most, or no?
No, we're just going to take them home pretty much to the communities they belong to. Just because, again, like, I don't think we expected such astronomical numbers, and we don't even know, like, we're talking, because there was so much, these places, like, these children were sexually abused. And then, of course, you had it against each other and all kinds of things. So you had babies throwing in furnaces. You had, like, they're scanning walls of these buildings. It's just is astronomical. And it's interesting because I think at least 2 on our list right now are American Indian school grounds that they've checked, and they did find unmarked graves.
We totally have that here, I'm sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so that's what's happening. One is, I think it was Pennsylvania, they uncovered a grave there.
So Cinema Canella saying, wow, 10,000 in Canada. Now what would the number be in the USA?
If we stay on top of them,
you got to remember, like, this is just the beginning here. Like, we're not even on the tip of the iceberg. And I mean, it's been a huge cover up. the Canadian and the American government have known about this whole, the Indian Act system all the way along. Canada, for example, was floated. I don't know if you remember, Vibe, quite a few years ago, the stimulus package here in Canada that they got was taking out of the Indian Trust Fund. There's a lot of people in Canada that don't know.
Cinnamon Canella saying, what is the name of the museum, please?
Oh, the one in Brantford? It's called Mount Elgin.
Okay.
It's just a shame. It's just awful because, you know, we haven't even really ramped up here that I can see. We've had
and it's coming. No, we're starting. Yeah, we're starting to push. We are pushing from this side now. For especially the US, because we have a lot of Indigenous children on this side that we're taking to school over there and vice versa.
Well, we had a really crazy thing with a bunch of Catholic churches that had, you know, nuns and stuff, and their abortions and their babies that they dug up. There was one time in the 80s they found one, and then recently where a bunch of nuns had been having sex with somebody and had these babies and buried them alive, and it was, or somebody's babies. It just seems like if they don't do any DNA testing, then we don't, maybe they're missing pieces of the stories that would come together.
I think they might try and do some DNA testing. I think it's just right now. I think they're just so overwhelmed. Oh yeah. Heck, like even us as communities are so overwhelmed. We never expected the number. Well, and I hate to say it, like, just in truth be told, like, I don't think my generation and under really had a grasp of what their generation and older went through, because when it hit Canada, you can ask Dr. Vivett, like, even hit Indigenous people like a ton of bricks. Like, we didn't even have any idea because they had been through so much trauma and everything. It was almost like an unspoken thing, right? Like, we had no idea what was going on, and they just all kind of went into quiet survival mode. So a lot of us, all of a sudden, when this hit, we're looking at elders, our parents, our grandparents, our great aunts and uncles, and finding out that almost every one of them went to residential school. It was crazy.
Well, we are this, and the crazy thing, about all the conversations tonight, they're ongoing. So we will have ongoing updates from Christy in regards to this.
You said this is they've only searched 4 or 5 schools.
Yeah.
Wow. Just that's it.
Isn't that crazy? Right? Thank you, Aisha. Yeah, that's what I knew. It was a very small number of schools. And I think in Canada, I think we have registered like 47 of them across Canada. So if we're only at 4 or 5, and they haven't even, that's not even full data of all of them. It's just partial data. And Dr. Vibe, we really need to have a conversation because, as I said, one thing that's really bothering me in Canada is these numbers are over 10,000. And, you know, nobody's talking about it anymore in Canada. Trudeau's flipped the script again. No more orange shirts. No more all children matter. No more. I mean, if it was 10,000 other children found in unmarked mass graves, it'd be a crime scene.
I would edit that and saying if it was children of a certain background.
Exactly.
Not 10,000 children, period. I'd say
it seems like they're going to find more. If it's only a couple of schools, it's going to just be a very dark moment.
Oh, I can't even. And the thing for us is, I think, sad to say, interesting as it's unfolding. Like, I don't think we realized that how in depth the whole Canada and US togetherness was in the whole schools and all of that for our system. Because we're dual citizens, right? And didn't even think of that, I guess, when we were growing up, going, holy heck, this could be a whole, you know, Canada US thing.
Well, that is a wrap on an unfortunate moment on our conversation tonight, but another epic one, family. Thank you, Christy. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Aisha, for being on as usual and bring it, Christy. Hope you can still keep on coming back.
I'm working on it.
All right.
I got a new tech guy.
There you go. You got a new tech, so you're all good. You're all set up. But as always, before we let everyone go, want to give an opportunity for them to give their contact information. So first up, Christy, I've got a contact information for you, your Facebook page.
Thank you.
So that's where you can best find her. And thank you, Christy, for taking the time to share with us this evening. Next up, they call her the Twitter Buster.
Well, it was Jill D. Jones at Twitter. Now it's I mean, it's. I guess it'll still be that tomorrow, but I'm also around on Instagram at Jill Jones Music.
Okay, maybe I'll put the Gram ID next time. All right, the Gram ID.
Maybe, yeah.
All right, all right. But you know, Facebook owns them too.
Yeah, that's true. But Twitter,
you're good. You're not in Facebook jail, so you still gotta. You're good. You're good. All right. Next up,
Aisha Staggers at Twitter. I might be on, I might not.
All right. All right. And I am Dr. Vibe, and wherever you want to get a hold of me, these are the best places. Website, the drvibeshow.com, email dr@the drvibeshow.com, Facebook, The Dr. Vibe Show, Instagram, The Dr. Vibe Show. I'd like to thank everyone who joined us live and anyone who's going to watch or listen on the replay. It's appreciated and not taken for granted. Yes, here we go. Jen says, great conversation. I like this. DJ White, ongoing conversation. Yes, please. I like that. Fantastic. We love it. We love it. And let me just say thanks to everyone who come in tonight. So let's do the roll call. Jen, DJ White, Cinnamon Canella, Blue Rains, Black Beauty, Will Barber. Will Barber's brand new. La Crosse, thank you so much. Christina, thank you so much. I think I've got everyone. Tamara McCauley from Texas, Jill's favorite state outside of California.
Right.
Okay, she lost in the background.
That's a stretch.
Okay. Well, oh, there you go. Outside of taco. Yeah, the tacos are good. The tacos are good.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody, as always, I close off with this. Live your life as a dream. If you can dream it, you can make it. Sometimes you have to get smaller to get stronger. Block assumptions and aim bigger, aim better, aim higher, aim wider. Love, faith, and respect. And remember to give yourselves grace. And two last things. Yes, I did say give yourself grace. And the last thing I'll say, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And interesting enough, someone actually, it's a friend of Christy's, asked me if I can send her what I say to close every conversation. So I still have to do that. So we will see everyone, God willing, next week, 9 p.m. And please walk good. Good night, everybody.